Hello, and welcome back to Historical Terminology, where today we're going to talk about constitutions, which is basically just what the government is allowed to do. And we'll go through a couple examples of different constitutions, including the American one, and we'll learn something. So let's get started. First of all, come on, face. Go where I want you to. There we go. So a definition of a constitution, they're basically just written documents that outline how the government will work in a particular country. And they often list specific rights and responsibilities of the government and its people. So for instance, in the United States, it outlines the way our government is going to work, right? It has a legislative branch with a Congress. It has a president, which is the executive branch. There's a court, which is the judicial branch. There are amendments, the Bill of Rights, that list rights and responsibilities of the people and the government. Right, they have all those things. And constitutions have been written by a person, a committee, the military, an elected body, depending on the nation and the situation involved, right? So constitutions have been written by many different groups over time. So not a big deal. Constitutions really are kind of like contracts. So it's a contract between the people of a nation and the government that's going to represent them. Basically, it's saying we as the people have decided that this is what you, the government, are allowed to do, and this is how you're going to treat us. So you can do things for us and we can do things for you. Really, the people are giving the government power. Now, that's not always the case, but a good constitution is where the people give the government the power to operate in their interest, but they also set limits on what the government is allowed to do so that they don't lose their rights that they want. And then sometimes, right, when the government violates that trust or that contract, the Constitution might get revised or redone so it can better suit the people. And we'll give some examples of when both those things have happened as well. Why do nations need constitutions? Well, before constitutions were written down, governments were run by individuals or groups, and they could change the law and take away people's rights whenever they wanted to. And so governments, right, had the right to change the rights that citizens had pretty much with a whim. And so constitutional restraint on power holds that government in check and ensures that the people retain their rights and are served by the government that is supposed to be serving them instead of the other way around. So let's talk about some examples of constitutions. You can see here, it's on the whiteboard, so we got to do it. Okay, the first one we're going to talk about is the United States Constitution, which was written in 1781 and has not been replaced since. It was written by a committee of people who were elected from all the different states. And the Constitution has a system of checks and balances in the structure of the government. It allows amendments and it guarantees certain rights to citizens, or it protects rights from the government. For instance, like freedom of speech, freedom of religion, stuff like that. The United States was designed with the idea that ultimately the people had the ultimate power, since leaders depended on elections to keep office. And that's held for the most part true. There's always problems with governments and systems, but for the most part, the Constitution as written has held up for the most part. Obviously, the United States has changed its Constitution 27 times. Because we needed to change it, and it's probably going to get changed again. But overall, it has maintained a functioning government since it was written. The next one we're going to talk about is the 1634 Instrument of Government, which was written in Sweden. And it was the first modern constitution in the world, at least that's what it's considered by historians. The document regulated some of the administrative, judicial, and military matters in Sweden, but it was then nullified about 60 years later. The current Swedish constitution was adopted in 1974 and is strictly adhered to. So this was kind of the first attempt in Europe to have a constitution. Some of you might point to like the Magna Carta as a constitution. However, the Magna Carta isn't really that. It's just kind of like it's more of like a law that was passed. It's not quite a constitution. It doesn't govern the UK. It was just kind of, it was very it had a certain structure that was then used for the U.S. Constitution. Not the same thing. Finally, let's talk about the fifth French Constitution. France has had 5 different republics in its history, and its most recent one was advocated for by Charles de Gaulle, and it was written by Michael Debré. And this constitution replaced the constitution of the Fourth Republic. France was having some political issues at the time, and their current leader, Charles de Gaulle, decided that they needed to start over, and they rewrote their constitution, and then they put it up to a vote, and France accepted it as its new ruling document, and it's been in effect since then. It outlines the government's responsibilities to the people of France, the government's institutions, and it's been amended 24 times since 1958 when it was adopted. So it's been rather successful in the long string of French constitutions. Thank you so much for watching and learning about constitutions. And like always, subscribe, ring the bell so that you know when more videos are coming. And if you have any suggestions for what you want to learn about, go ahead and drop a comment and I'll try to make a video about it. Thanks again for watching. See you soon.